Fear Zone Channel, your horror channel. Good evening everyone, and the story today is of a young man named Valdo, and this story happened when he was still a boy, and it was in the year 2001, in the city of Catanduva, which is in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. And it all started like this. I lived in an ordinary neighborhood in my city, and at that time, next to my house, there was a vacant lot, where sometimes, when I was a child, I played in this place, with other boys the same age as me. One day, I took my toys in the afternoon, to this vacant lot to play, and I was alone, because there were no children around to play with me. While I was having fun with my cars and superhero dolls, suddenly I saw a strange man, and he seemed to be a wanderer, and he was talking to Mrs. Sebastiana, who lived on the other side of the vacant lot, and this woman worked with witchcraft, and did various magical works for people. As I was there near them, I overheard some of the conversation between the two, and Mrs. Sebastiana took a bag of something, and gave it to this man, who seemed to be a walker, and this witch told this man, that he should not come around the neighborhood anymore, or she would take drastic measures. And right after this strange man spoke to my neighbor witch, he came into the empty lot where I was playing, and this man didn't see me, and stood for a while in the middle of the bush stirring the earth, and it looked like he was burying something in the ground. At that moment, I had a bad feeling about this walker. I was afraid of him. I quickly put my toys in my box, left that place hidden from the walker, went back to my house, and already inside my residence, I put my toys away in my room, and then I started watching TV. I stayed in the living room until about 11 p.m., which was more or less the time I slept, because I went to school in the morning, and had to wake up early. Then, I went to my room, and before I went to sleep, I got my toys to play a little, and I lost my superhero toy that I had. I looked for my toy all over my room, but I couldn't find anything. Then I looked all over my house, and I didn't see this toy, so I thought, it must be in the wasteland, because when that man walked by, I quickly grabbed my toys to get out of the place, and so I must have left that toy behind. Well, I was worried, because I had to wake up in the morning to go to school, and as there were several students passing by the vacant lot, who went to school in the morning, some child might find my toy, and take it away. Anyway, and I was afraid to go out in the street, at that time of the night from inside my house, to look for my toy in the lot, because I looked out the window and saw no one on the street at that time, and it was past midnight, so I dragged a table to the wall of my house, and climbed up there to see if I could find my toy in the lot next door. But at that time, it was very dark through the woods, and I couldn't see anything there, so I took courage, and took the keys to my house, and opened the gate of my residence very slowly, so that my parents wouldn't see me, so I went out on the sidewalk, but at that time my dog also followed me, and came with me, and we went to the vacant lot, which was next to the house, and as soon as I got into that bush in the vacant lot, and I could see a little bit, because of the street lamp, but I went further and further away, to see if I could find my toy. Suddenly my dog started barking for something, and I went in the direction of a very tall bush that had on the ground. I stood looking, to see what was happening, but soon I got scared with what I saw, because something was walking hidden by that vegetation, and it was some kind of animal, very similar to a black dog, and I was moving away from this beast, and I started calling my dog to get out of there. The fact is that I saw this animal's face, and it scared me, because this animal's eyes were not something ordinary, and it had a very strong glow, almost like a light. And with the danger that I was in, suddenly I saw the forest moving, and this animal made a very thick growl, and came out of the middle of the vegetation very fast, and advanced on my dog, who was next to him barking, but fortunately, my animal managed to escape from the attack of this beast, and it was at this moment, that I saw this whole creature in front of me, at least about 8 meters away, And it was a strange kind of animal, similar to a monkey, but it had a snout like a dog's, and the fur of this animal was all frayed on its body. It was a huge creature, and after this animal attacked my dog, suddenly it stood up like a man, with only 2 legs, and fortunately, my dog stayed close to this werewolf barking and distracting him, and at that moment I took advantage and ran to my house, and I was so scared that I couldn't even feel my body, but I quickly opened the gate, entered my residence, and so already in my house I closed the door, and woke up my father to solve this dangerous situation. He woke up a little scared, to see me like this, and asked me what was happening. I told my father that I had seen a werewolf, in the vacant lot next door, but my father did not doubt me, and he went to look out the window, and my father saw our dog barking near the gate of the house. This happened because I closed my gate quickly, when I fled the werewolf, and the dog stayed outside. Well, my father was brave. He took a wooden handle, picked up my dog from the street and brought him into the house, and I was afraid that he would be attacked, but fortunately, nothing happened, and the werewolf didn't come. But then, my father saw me so scared, that he didn't want to scold me, and just told me that I shouldn't leave the house at night, and with all that happened that night, I didn't even sleep, so I kept thinking, and looking out the window, thinking that this creature could be near my house, so I fell asleep. Soon the day came. I talked directly to my father. I told him everything about what happened, and how this werewolf was, and he also explained to me better what this creature was. I learned that it would be a man who would turn into this werewolf, and that these creatures would only appear in the late hours of the night. After this conversation, my father went with me to the wasteland, and we stayed there looking for my toy, and what happened was that the wanderer who talked to Ms. Sebastiana was looking for something in the desert. But after a while, this strange man left the place, and after a few minutes, I ended up finding my toy, and I also found the bag that Anderilho had won from Ms. Sebastiana, and for sure, that man was looking for that bag. I was curious, and I opened that bag, and what was inside was salt, because I had tasted some. Well, at the time I didn't understand anything, and I threw that little bag of salt back into the forest, and since I had already found my toy, I left the wasteland with my father. I was traumatized by the whole story for several months, and at night I didn't leave the house, just for fear that this would happen, that I would see this werewolf again. But after years that passed this story with me, I understood better what a werewolf was. I learned that these beasts in the form of a man ask for salt in certain houses, in order not to attack them in the form of a werewolf. Well, I ended up relating the werewolf to Anderilho, because I saw that man twice in my neighborhood, and this guy asked my neighbor for salt, and it was the same bag of salt that I found in a vacant lot, and for sure, when Anderilho went back there, he was looking for that bag of salt. But some years passed, and one day I went to clarify this story with Mrs. Sebastiana. About this case, I explained everything, what had happened to me, in which I was almost caught by a werewolf. I also talked about Anderilho and the salt. Ms. Sebastiana told me that there are things that human beings can't and don't need to know, and that supernatural events have to remain hidden, and if unprepared people know these secrets, they risk losing their lives and being tormented by the spirit world, and the witch didn't reveal anything to me. I didn't want to insist on knowing more about this story, because of the witch's warning, for I knew nothing about these matters deeply, nor did I want to get involved with the supernatural. Well, and thinking about my dog, he was a hero that day of the werewolf's appearance, because he distracted the creature and I managed to escape. If you ever find a bag of salt thrown around, be careful, because it might be from a werewolf. And I suspect that the werewolf was looking for the bag of salt in the vacant lot that day when it appeared, and for sure it was the tramp who became the werewolf, who appeared to me that night. Well guys, if you like this story, subscribe to our channel to receive more werewolf stories. Until the next werewolf video.